So, funny story time. I went on Wikipedia to double check when this game was released, and I was reading up a little bit about it, and apparently people panned this game. It received really low scores, so I'm like, maybe that's just Wikipedia being Wikipedia. So I checked out other game sites, and it's true. Pretty much everyone panned this game and gave it horrible scores, like ones or twos out of tens when it came out. And I'm not just talking about reviewers, like people did the same thing. And especially the Sega Genesis version. This game also came out for the Super Nintendo and the Atari Jaguar. But this version specifically was panned. It was basically put in the same ballpark as like the worst fighting games ever, like Rise of the Robots and like Shaq Fu, like the worst Genesis fighting games. I don't get it. Where are these people coming from? Why would this game be that bad? It's really not at all. You know what? That's not really a funny story. That's just a story. Forget I said funny. Let me just go back and edit out the word funny in the video, because this is just a story that happened, but I doubt any of you are LOLing to the bank. What's so bad about this game, really? Let's look at this objectively. It's a fighting game. Yes, it's Double Dragon. And Double Dragon, typically Double Dragon games aren't fighting, they are beat 'em up games. And beat 'em up games are basically fighting games where you walk to the right. But okay, maybe people were just confused. Maybe the game sold itself as like a typical Double Dragon game, and then they started playing and it's a fighting game. Maybe that's well the hubbub is coming from. But I don't think so. I think some people actually thought, because reviewers actually gave this a low score, and they said it was a bad game. Like it's a I guess they're saying it's like a rip-off of Street Fighter 2 or something. Well, pretty much all fighting games of this era, the 16-bit era, look alike, so everything can be called a rip-off. You know, Eternal Champions, Art of Fighting, those can all be rip-offs of Street Fighter 2. You know, what does that say? How good is the game on itself? And it's good. The characters look good. It's well drawn. The fighting is good. It's not overly insane. It's not like a fighting game on Ritalin, on speed times 3. The fighting is a lot more laid back than the typical crazy, insane, super high speed fighting game. The moves don't look that crazy. There are special moves though, and there's also attacks with weapons. Pretty much every character in the game has weapons. So aside from just regular punches and kicks, you can slice at the enemy with a sword or whatever you're wearing, a gun or Wolverine claws, whatever it is that you have. And of course you have the special attacks, something like shooting ice at an enemy and then the enemy freezes. This reminds me of something. Where have I seen this? Where you shoot an enemy with ice and they freeze? Oh my god, Becky. This game is totally ripping off Sonic and Knuckles. I would get the hate for this game if it was like an exact ripoff of Street Fighter 2. If they just used the characters straight from the game, but they changed the color of their hair or something. But they're using characters from Double Dragon. You have your Bimmy and Jimmy and all the other characters. Honestly, I don't even know characters from Double Dragon. This is Double Dragon 5. There have been 5 games just in the 90s alone. And Double Dragon isn't really like a popular franchise. I guess it's semi-popular, but I don't think it really picked up that much steam. Even though there have been like so many games, at least 5 when this came out, and then it was also in other parts of media. Like there was a movie. I definitely remember a movie with Bimmy and Jimmy. There was like a TV show, I think, at one point, and yet I know nothing about Double Dragon. There was a Double Dragon made-for-TV movie on the Lifetime channel, where Bimmy got pregnant by Jimmy, and Jimmy skipped town, starring Andy McDowell as Bimmy and Rosie O'Donnell as Jimmy. It was very heartwarming, very touching. But again, just back to what would make a fighting game bad, I guess really poor controls, lag, just really boring combat, overly complicated and stupid combat, or overly simplified combat where you can pretty much just spam an attack and defeat the enemies that way. Can you spam attacks in this game? Yeah, you can spam attacks, but if you're playing on the harder difficulties, you won't beat the enemies that way. Is the game laggy? Is it broken? No. The controls are responsive. The music is decent. I mean, for the Sega Genesis, it has that robotic 16-bit sound that might be like running your nails on a chalkboard for kids these days, but it's memorable to me. Is the game overly complicated or overly easy? No, not really. You can use the special attacks and they're really helpful. I honestly, I'm dumbfounded. I have no idea why people thought this was a bad game. I'm assuming it was just like hive mind thing where saw a couple of reviews and they're like, all right, well, I'm just gonna call it bad too. I don't care what the actual game is. I'm just gonna say it's a bad game. Without even making up my own opinion, I'm gonna take the opinion of others and make that my opinion, regardless of what I actually think about the game. It's not the best game ever by any stretch of the imagination. Of course it's not. This isn't Marvel vs. Capcom. This isn't some of the better Mortal Kombat games, obviously. But it's not bad. It's actually, honestly, it's kind of good. Sorry, I said it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more classic game reviews. Goodbye, my friends.